beautiful, gorgeous beings of light with Nick and Bean unscripted. Yeah,
I'm Beanie.
I'm Nick.
We're going to take you on a journey of conversations that includes things like purple unicorns, aliens, real life stuff, and anything in between.
We can't wait to see where these conversations take us, because I can guarantee you they're going to get pretty cray-cray.
Well, with you in the room, Nicola, anything can happen.
That is true. Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you have any input that you want to add to this channel, we would love to hear from you. In the meantime, let's get the show on the road.
Hello.
Third podcast.
Third podcast.
Not that I'm counting, but I'm actually thoroughly enjoying it. So I think I find myself every week counting down how many days until the next podcast, and then I start thinking about ideas, and then nothing's really come to me this week. So
that's good because it's unscripted.
It is unscripted. But what do you want to talk about this week?
Well, from this comfy couch, which I love, I'm loving the vibe. I feel very relaxed.
Yeah, well, just so you know, if you're listening on the airwaves, sorry, visually we are obviously entertaining. However, we are on a new couchy wouchy.
We're on a new couch.
Not a new couch, but it's
our couch. Different room,
different location.
Same amazing backdrop.
Yeah.
All the green screen things.
Yeah.
And a dog there who might pop his head up. What are we thinking? Well, it's funny. I've been thinking lots of things because that's what my little mind does. And as I was thinking that thing, then I did a podcast with a friend, and her first question was about this topic as well. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe it should be something that we could talk about, because I have this thing, like, you know, everyone talks about like spirituality, and you know, someone might go on a date with someone and they go, oh, he's just not, or she's not spiritual enough. And I shouldn't do that with an accent because that's condescending to people that speak like that. You know, like they're not spiritual enough, or that person does this thing, so they're not spiritual, or they're really spiritual. And so I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, what the hell is, like, what makes someone spiritual anyway? Like, because it's so different for everyone. You know, so we throw this blanket statement, and it's used a lot more now. It's a bit like when everyone started doing yoga and things like that. There was all that spiritual thing. So I want to know what you believe, and I'll tell you some of my thoughts. But like, what is spiritual anyway? Like,
what isn't spiritual? If there is a vice versa,
right? Like that person can't be spiritual. Yeah, it's funny. This thing popped up on my YouTube yesterday or the day before, I think, and it was this woman advertising. I don't know what she was advertising because I didn't keep watching the ad, but she was saying that she was watching this spiritual leader, and she went to his event, and he came out on stage and he pulled out his wallet and he had all this money in his hand, and he was like, I love money. I love money so much. And she's like, and she said she was sitting in the audience just going, my God, I thought this guy was meant to be spiritual. I've come to the wrong thing. Like, he's doing all this stuff with money, and how could he be spiritual if he's like so into money? Yeah. And then he turns around and he goes, so some of you are probably sitting there. Excuse me, just had an amazing apple and chocolate muffin.
No apple, just banana and dark chocolate. Yeah.
No apple.
Yeah.
I ate an apple beforehand, and I was burping through the podcast I did the other day too because I ate an apple beforehand. So I apologize. Anyway, so he was going, you know, you might be sitting there going, well, why is this guy so into money? This isn't the thing. Like, how could you possibly be in money? And he goes, some of you might even be like sitting there thinking, how can this guy be spiritual because he's doing this thing with money? And she was like, oh my God, like, that's me. And that was what made her stay. I don't know what the rest of the thing was about, but I'm sure oh no, that's right. He turned around and he said, if that was you, all I want you to know is that money hears you.
Yeah, fucking nice words.
Like, as an energetic proposition, money hears you, right? So it's like, you think about all of the people, and I know you said like Natalie Peterson, who's a perfect example, because she looks so like typical of a spiritual person, right? Which we'll get into that. Anyway, but that's what I was saying.
You were talking about the guy and the words. So he said
being unspiritual, but then I said something else because I burped, and
then the word was fucking brain fart.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Were you even listening to me?
Yeah.
Was I even listening to me?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something on menopause brains.
Yeah.
It's definitely, that's a topic. Oh, right. Like, so, Natalie Peterson, when you went to see her thing, she talked about coaches and how they're all in
pain,
right? All in pain, because there's so many distortions around how to be spiritual, what it even means.
Yep.
Right? Like, and I know for myself, like, it's really funny, like people, because I've done kinesiology for 14 years and, ceremonies and meditated like a motherfucker and all of these different things, like I'm right down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's there, I've probably tried it. And if you know of something that I haven't tried, please let me know because I'll give it a shot. Does that make me more spiritual? Does it make me more spiritual because I've co-facilitated retreats and teach people how to drop into spaces? Does it make me more spiritual because I love like Egyptian stuff and I have guides and I have all of this stuff, right? And then does it make me less spiritual because I became a buyer's agent as well after doing all of those things? So and it was really interesting, the response from people, because that's what they said. They're like, but you're a healer, but you're spiritual, but you're whatever. And it's like, well, why can't I be that as well? Like, it was left wing for me as well, out of whatever, but like, why can't you do something, and why does it have to be non-spiritual because it involves buying and selling, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could turn around and go, to me it's all just service. To me it's connecting with people, and in a beautiful way it's helping people find a home, or like
or creating a dream, wealth,
right? But even if they're just creating wealth, like every single person does. And the coaches like that Natalie Peterson talks about, being in pain, like you see it all the time. This is why there's coaches become coaches for coaches.
Yeah.
And even in kinesiology, people go, oh, I'm a I'm not, but they go, I'll be a kinesiologist to help kinesiologists in their business, right? Because everyone knows how much people who are perceivably more spiritual have this thing around money, you know? And that theory, like I always got taught, was like, it's okay to have the fast car or the expensive car as long as you're driving the car. The car's not driving you.
100%.
And it's a really good analogy, isn't it?
And I think, like, when you ask that question, it takes me back to when, I guess for me, if I'm going to be fucking totally honest and transparent in my journey, that there's definitely been an element of as you grow and expand and you start to become aware of yourself and the possibilities and spirituality and what's fucking, beyond, that ego does come in, and did come in for me, where, there was judgment about, well, are you fucking meditating? And the perfect thing that, I think that our relationship has taught me is that obviously we're very fucking different. And I do things very different from Beanie and vice versa. So I'm very disciplined. And so what happens is, if I have a goal, if I want to, achieve peace and, and be ultimately, whole as a person, then I will, meditate, 45 minutes. I'll be very disciplined. I read lots of books, blah, blah, blah. Where Beanie, but beautifully has her own way of connecting. And this is what I've, realized in my journey, is that we are all spirit star people, fucking, not all, but there are some people that are connected, that is like, fully can get angels, visuals, ascended masters, all that kind of stuff. And then there's some that may not have that same connection. That'll be a little bit different.
Ever. Like, doesn't matter how much they meditate and connect in it. It doesn't
happen, right? And so, whilst I get messages, which is, quite frequently, visually, I've never really had that, thing happen for me. But for you, it happens quite easily and effortlessly, and you can just, fucking do some hape and 5-minute meditation, and you've got fucking, ascended master Archangel Michael just tapping on your forehead going, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, fucking hell, why can't they have me? And I and I tell you what, it's fucking annoying because I'm just like, dude, I'm fucking showing up here. But all things aside, letting my ego go, is that I've realized that, the fact is we are all different. Ultimately, spirituality is a way of life, and a way of life to me, and what I believe is really fucking important is authenticity. Really, spirituality for me is fucking going deep. It's like, I want to be so fucking whole. I want to be so fucking authentic. I want to be shining my fucking unicorn ass wherever I possibly can. I want to be this, and then following that path. And I think that anyone who is following that devotion to self, for me personally, is really fucking kudos, because it's not an easy job, like you're having to face things that you totally may not be comfortable with, and a friend.
But why? Like, what does it get you? So you're talking about the path. Like, this is my point. Like, what is the path? Because it looks different to everyone. And I have this thought about, sorry, I feel like cooking. I have this thought about.
Watch that. Just don't need to.
Where's the green screen?
Yeah.
I have this thought about, I remember once at a breath work, like it was explained to someone that this person in the room was having this like really physical experience and like full on experience. And in essence, it was like to say that they were very clean. The reason they could get to that point was because they were so clean that the energy could come through. And to your point before about saying like you can meditate and do all of these things and you might not get to the same level or see the same way. Like, I don't think they're different, like necessarily higher or lower. It's just people still see things, hear things, feel things. Like, it's all different for everyone.
And I think it's intuition. Ultimately, no matter what, wherever you're at, you're building your own intuition.
For sure. But my point in this is, like, we have a friend, Kurt, who is very spiritual. Once we get to what that means, he meditates a lot. He has connections, and he rocked up to this event eating a hash brown from McDonald's. So I'm like, well, you're saying that this person over here can have this amazingly like euphoric experience because they're clean, and then it's like this guy over here just rocks up eating some McDonald's for breakfast or whatever, and he's getting way like channels coming through, and I say to people, like, you hear of so many awakenings and connections when someone's like OD'd on heroin or something, and then they've just like, they don't die, but they come back as they see their angels or they see whatever, and then they've got this like clear line. I've had clients. I remember having a guy once who was he was a car detailer, and he just had it. He didn't meditate. He didn't like do anything. He was just connected. I was working with chakras, and at one point he grabbed my hand and he just moved it to the left a bit because it was like whatever, because he can see it all, right? So there's so many rules that we put around it, and it's like if someone's like got heaps of plastic surgery, there's this idea that they're ignorant to connection or the spiritual world, right?
Well, maybe not loving themselves in totality.
For sure. But then I have this image, right, of we're all star beings, or from like, say, we're just a wisp of air in the cosmos, just waiting to come down, right, into a physical body. And imagine if you've never had a physical body, you come into this world, you see technology and everything for what it's worth, right? And you're like, oh my God, what are these things? And you're light and you're playful and you have no judgments, and you're like, wow. And you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you go, oh, I can get those lips. Oh, wow, this is so fun, you know, like, what about my boobs? Oh, I can make my boob. You know, you might see someone with boobs, you go, I want some boobs. And it can be so playful and light. And I get that, like, a lot of the times that doesn't come from that. Do you know what I mean? Someone's not necessarily happy with the way they look and everything. But I think the judgment, like, it might not just come from, I mean, a lot of the time it does come from unhappiness, but at the same time, it doesn't have to. Like, what I'm saying is, we judge people, whether they're spiritual or not, based on physical appearance, money, people wanting to have like fast cars and millions of dollars and all that stuff, and that idea that if they want that stuff, that they can't be spiritual. But then you could turn around and flip it on its ass and say, well, they're actually more connected and more in alignment because they've just decided that's what they want, and they do good things for society. Because obviously, you know, I know you said like that connection to self and that growth, but once we do a certain level of that connection and growth, like, the ultimate is then to bring it back out into the community. Like, that's the
ultimately we want to be of service. You know, I think ultimately, ultimately we want to be of service. And I think that when, you know, we talk about, you know, going back into ourselves and, you know, and you know, fulfilling our life's desires, you know, like fulfilling our life's desires, I truly believe being spiritual is understanding that we are fucking unique. You, me, Joe Blow, Jack, Dennis, Jackie, we are all so unique, right? And so we come to this earth and we go, okay, you know, like, I don't know, you do your fucking 9 to 5 and you're like, oh, this is great, I'm fucking having a great time, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then there's something inside of you, because ultimately, I don't think life here is supposed to be 9 to 5. Personally, I think life is about getting fucking fulfilled, having space, having time, having creativity, having money, having a little. And I was going to say before, you know, with spirituality, I think where the discord is in terms of that spiritual righteousness is that, you know, there's a lot of pain, because if you truly stand in your power and start going, well, yeah, I want to be a wealthy motherfucker, like Natalie Pedersen, who I absolutely kudos to her, because I have loved seeing her break down the conforms of spirituality. You know, she's flipping wealthy. She walks into stores and she goes, hey, I'm fucking wealthy. Yeah, watch me. I'm going to burn some money, you know, and obviously changing, you know, obviously quite extreme, but in that way, kind of setting a lot of people free with the expression of going, it's okay to go, I want to be wealthy. I want to experience joy. I want to experience everything I can possibly want. I absolutely think about. And then going back to that pain where I talk about where spiritual people, and don't get me wrong, you know, there's a big part of you that we just go, oh, I just want to help people. I just want to see them fly. I just want to, you know, but ultimately when we're coming from a space where are we flying internally ourselves, or are we owning what we truly want?
Yeah.
How can you help someone fly to that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, well, you could be like, your existence and your struggles and your stories and connecting on that level can be really helpful for people. 100%. So, you know, there's a thing that I've met so many people over the years that want to become something in the healing realms, like, you know, be it kinesiology, be it another modality, whatever modality it is, and they say, but I have to, like, get myself right first. And when I say get myself right, they're like, I have to fix myself first. Like, I'm not there yet. And I'm like, fuck, if you wait till you're there, you're not going to help anyone, because that's not the thing. Like, who decides what's there? Who decides what's spiritual enough? To me, I just think that having a connection to source
is super great.
So we are all part of consciousness. So it's
Stardust.
easy to forget that sometimes and create a separation. And I think we're not in that separation is what we're meant to be doing, right? Like, I think it's a collective. I think that the universe is a whole. We are part of the universe, therefore we are all connected in that space. So it feels distorted when we're on our own, right? Like when we're truly on our own, we should have fed our dog before we did this because he's it's like, give me some food. You know, like when we're truly deeply connected in everything we're doing, right? And that's presence. So it's like you could be riding a bike and you're with it, right? You could be walking through a forest and you're attentive to everything around you. You know, it is that idea of like, well, you are the tree, you are the grass, you are the kookaburra, you are the water, you are the fire, you are all of these things. And I know that sometimes that goes too far for people, but all we're really saying in that is respecting everything because we are that thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's easy for people a lot of the time to detach from any of that and become separate and I guess caught up in the distractions of life. And I guess that's what people are saying is unspiritual, but really I don't think you can put that label on it. I think it has to be they're not present or they're not consciously connected to source, because unconsciously we always are, right? We can't not be in an essence, right? Like, and that's why the heroin addict on the floor about to pass away is going to, you know,
have an awakening,
because we're all connected, like we are, whether we choose it or not. And I think some of the pain sometimes is to fight that as a connection or not believe that's possible. Do you know what I mean? It's only the illusion in our mind that stops us from feeling or believing that we are connected. Right? And in saying that, like I go back to that guy that I used to have as a client who could see everything and see dead people. He could see dead people. He could see chakras and energy systems in someone's body and auric fields and stuff. And it's like, I'm sitting there jealous, going, look at all the work I've done and all the lessons, how many courses have I done and books have I read, whatever. So you say that I can just sit and drop in and have visitors and do whatever, but I've read a shitload of stuff and done a lot of different like studies over the years. I've just chilled out with it now because I'm almost 50 and I'm like, fuck that. Like, it's time for me to just like allow stuff to come in. But you know, he actually he did disconnect from his ability.
And some people do.
Through his belief, like it was a conscious thing. He felt like something had happened with some other people and he cut it off. And he said, they've left me, like they've left me, right? And he was really sad about it. It's like it was like he wasn't good enough. So they left and wouldn't share with him because he'd sit in a circle with like spirit people and stuff, like ascended masters and whatever, and get this information. So he was part of this like spirit world, but then they stopped it, and it turned out that they hadn't stopped it. He did. He chose that this thing happened with other people in the physical world, therefore he couldn't do that thing anymore. And as soon as he realized that, it was like, bang, it was back like that. So we can disconnect from things and, you know, but it's not just spiritual because we see things or connected to things. I honestly believe for a human, it is that presence and connection to all things.
Yeah, and source, really, because I was just thinking before, you know, ultimately spirituality is the ability to understand that we're much more than our bodies. We're much more than our bodies. And as soon as we start realizing that, i.e. Jakey,
he's running on digestive time right now.
As soon as we realize that, then that is the start line of expanding your consciousness. And I guess the thing is, spirituality has had such, like you said at the start, you know, right at the word go, you know, there was much, you know, the new thing to do with spirituality. And now I feel like the word has such, you know, potentially a judgment to it, because, you know, that's who we are as a race, right? We just tend to find judgment wherever we fucking can.
Well, it's just another box, isn't it?
It's another box.
So we can feel like...
But consciousness, expanding your consciousness is the way forward, because consciousness is no judgment. It's just the reality that we exist in. It is the reality we exist in. And ultimately, consciousness is the ability to see all things as ourselves, right? And as much as that mind can't comprehend that, I believe personally that the more that you want to attract more stuff in your life, the lighter you have to be. And my principle in that is that I eat really light. I don't harm any animals. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I think that in the state of consciousness, as Buddha would say, is that do no harm to no beings. And as beings are animals are sentient beings. This is the way I live. Now, do I have judgment on people that potentially eat meat? I'm not going to say I understand that. Oh no.
Look at that, we've got a nice job. Look at that. Yeah. We're talking about connection to nature, and look what comes up behind.
Yeah, I understand that people may eat meat. I grew up on a farm. I ate meat, but I will always invite people to go further into becoming more conscious.
So that's what you're asking, to be connected and conscious when you're doing something.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, because as this picture behind,
yeah,
like indigenous cultures, like they all eat meat. Yeah, they do it in a way that's.
They do. They bless the animal.
Yeah, keep them.
They bless the animal. They, I guess, I think that, I think, when we think about consciousness, I think we have made it an overriding factor that we believe that we can't do without it. And I just struggle with that, because in a world where we don't think, and we just assume that something is going to be on our plate, and
Sure. So then we bring it back to spirituality. Then you're talking about that disconnect.
I'm talking about that disconnect,
and you're talking about a heavier digestive process for that, which is why whenever we do medicine ceremonies or different meditation things or whatever, they always make it a vegetarian thing beforehand. So the idea is that it's lighter for you.
It's lighter, and you can process your emotions easier.
You said before, all of the stuff about not coming home, sorry, you said about what did you say? The way forward. You said it was the way forward, and I would say it's the way home.
Yeah, it is the way home.
Right? Like if we are coming from consciousness itself, and the more conscious we can become, because my idea is that we're in this meat suit, walking around in a physical body, so we can feel things like pain and suffering and happiness and joy and all of those things as a little messenger to send back to consciousness. There's this whole thing, which is where we become all the same or all one or whatever it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the more connected we come to each other and ourselves and the planet and the universe, that's really getting closer to our way home. And if you think about that, then you're thinking the opposing, which is separation.
Yeah.
Right. And how separation is such a painful process for people, like separation from self, which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Which is why we call it, coming home to yourself. Isn't it, like when we're talking about really true connecting and accepting back in yourself and acknowledging that there's something. I mean, is an atheist or someone that doesn't believe in anything, does that make them less spiritual? Does that mean they're less spiritual?
No, I think it's just unknown to them. I think an atheist, I was an atheist, I knew nothing except for I was going to die and it was going to be a black hole. That's what I was raised up as believing, and so it's just an unawareness, then I guess in a lot of ways you would say they weren't conscious. They weren't conscious enough to know that they were stardust. And so that they had a periphery of, and it's so amazing, right? So when you actually start to go, fuck, you know, there's a pop, you know, there's just a matter of choice.
I think fuck is spiritual. I think it's a good.
I think fuck is a great word, obviously. But
as soon as you go fuck.
Yeah, but as soon as you make that choice, as soon as, you know, I'm an atheist and then I go, oh, fuck, I'm a stardust. Oh my God, you know, shit blows up, and it's that simple. That's how simple life can be. That's how simple life should be. You know, it's just a choice. It's the choice between, you know, being in pain and being in light is really just choice. And then making decisions that keep you in light, and everything that takes you out of light, you go, well, fuck me, you know, I don't want to do that. And you just stay in light. And if you're not, you know, staying in that light for whatever reason, because there's fucking life going on and you've got kids or whatever else, you know, then you work out, well, what else do I need to be able to accept this situation? Or do you need anything to accept it?
Like, you don't need to. It's not even that, because you go, I mean, it can be, sorry, I don't mean to put down what you said.
Yeah.
But it's like, really, if we're being responsible, then it's like, how do we show up in that space? So if we go into a space that is seemingly distorted, or, you know, we got there from atheists or whatever, don't believe whatever, but like, we just show up in every space connected and open and loving and accepting.
Yeah.
Right. And that's obviously with healthy boundaries. So you can go, well, that's not okay for me. Like, you're not going to throw yourself into a dangerous situation, or, you know, do something that's going to harm you or others, you know. So you're powerful in that space, but you're really just open, loving, and connecting to what is, regardless if the situation around you is like horrible. A lot of people tend to kind of jump in the situation and become part of that energy, rather than holding their energy, right, as a purer force, and not buying into the surroundings. You know, like, that's, to me, that's true connection. Like, when we can stay in that space, not judge,
People,
just love and accept people for where they are. And, you know, I think that's one of the most challenging things for a lot of people, because a lot of times what happens is when people go, yeah, man, I'm so accepting of everyone in this space and whatever, but they're not accepting themselves. Yeah. Right. So they're throwing themselves under a bus to be whatever.
I know, it's Twilight. So sorry, peeps, we just had to cut because we needed to get our flow back on with our lovely green screen. But just to wrap up, I think that, to your point about, you know, holding people, totally agree with that. And I believe spirituality as a label, as a concept, kind of needs to be scrapped, to be honest. And
does it though?
Well, I think.
Do we need to scrap it? Isn't that just control?
Well, I think if we scrap it, then there's less room for judgment, first of all, and second of all, I think that we can move to understanding that we are consciousness. And I guess
so if you went on a date with someone, then you could come out and say, and if I said to you, how was your date? Which isn't going to happen because we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
So that would be weird. However, if I turned around and said, oh, how was your date last night? And you said it was full of consciousness.
No, I would probably turn around and go, I mean, they're probably not totally consciously aware of something, but, you know, there could be some room to go or move to. Or gotcha. I could probably go, oh, yeah, had no awareness.
Yeah. So self-awareness, so kind of
had no awareness,
or consideration, or connection,
and then I would be like, probably a no deal.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So it's not about going, oh no, they weren't spiritual. Can't, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, fucking jam that up their ass, like whatever. And again,
they could be religious too.
They could be religious, and
again, we don't talk about today because we're not really that religious, so we probably don't have much to say
about it.
Thanks for finishing.
So you wanna?
No, I think that's all I have to say. Connected, consciousness, presence in all things that we do, and accepting and loving of each other, and definitely, of course, ourselves with healthy boundaries as we serve in this lifetime, learning all the lessons we need to learn before we go back home to a puff of smoke.
To start us.
We would love to know what you think about
Yeah.
spirituality, what makes someone spiritual and what stops them from being spiritual.
Yeah.
And
If you like this video,
or
and
even if you just think we're full of shit,
or you want to be a part of our community, you know, to like, subscribe, get down now, guys.
yeah. So smash the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment because YouTube loves it, we love it, and we would like to build a nice, conscious, spiritual community. No, nice. We'd love to build a great community around this and continue to have great conversations.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week on Nick and Dean Unscripted.
Namaste, motherfuckers. Bye.